Oh, that's getting quite violent.
Hey.
Where are we coming from?
Space.
Are you, I know you probably are because you like needles, but are you so excited about having a vaccine? Jack!
I am so excited. I've thoroughly enjoyed and appreciated every vaccine I've had. The polio vaccine, marginally disappointed that I got denied the thrills of growing up with polio just by having a little vaccine. That one was,
It's quite a thick one. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure there's like a schedule, and like when you're a child, they just like issue it to you. And because people are like feeling not great about vaccines, they're giving people like a reduced schedule so it feels less crazy.
I think vaccines
totally
are
fine.
fucking cool. I voluntarily got the hepatitis vaccine. Can't remember which hep, the fun one. But yeah, it's I'm all for it. Medicine, more medicine. Yeah.
What?
whatever.
Eradicating disease and shit. Amazement.
It sounds good. It's all just self-improvement. Like the number of motherfuckers who will
vaccines.
like take all sorts of shonky, untested pre-workouts that have a picture of a man having some sort of
aneurysm,
vascular seizure on the cover, and they're like, "I'll take that."
But also the names are always like seizure horse and like muscle butt.
Oh, they're like heart fucker and stuff like that. The Stim Reaper, and that's a real one. That's not even a joke one.
That's
so
hilarious.
they're all fucking ridiculous, and we can't tell you what's in it. It's proprietary, and people are like, "Oh, I'll just smash that down. My gains broke."
That is amazing meme that's doing the rounds where it's just like, if you ever did drugs in X whatever bathroom, you have no right, and it'll always be like whatever your local scuzzy club is. You have no right to be questioning what's in a vaccine.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, but sorry, I'm very precious about what I put in my body. Sucks off some junkie at Pony on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, okay, cool.
Not to be
All right,
judging, it's totally fine to suck people off, but you
junkies
probably
need to get
should
sucked off
also
too.
take a vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm like, I mean, on the other side, I mean, I guess I do have a somewhat unhealthy skepticism for the powers that be who are in charge of this sort of thing.
I know, but like,
as a concept, I'm pro-vaccine.
I want to just run you through something that I straight up stole from the New York Times, because that's the type of journalist that I am. We're going to do a new segment, and I'm going to call it Vaccine Roundup, and it's going to have like some song here, Vaccine Roundup.
I never agreed to songs. That's...
Don't like
Oh,
me.
you do them?
I just did.
Carry on.
That was singing. Oh. So, before we go, I do want to hear from you, like, what you think the names of the three main ones are.
Names of the three main vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
What's the naming convention? Is it just the organisation that did it?
Maybe.
They're like an Oxford one and the Pfizer one and
There's one more.
GlaxoSmithKline.
Close. All right. So you definitely.
Is there an umbrella corporation vaccine?
Basically, yes.
Yep.
I mean, but that's weird because there's like so many basement levels. It's like, why don't you just build up? It's cheaper. It's actually
It's
cheaper.
secret.
Oh, I never
You don't
realized.
put your secrets on the top floor. You put them in the basement.
Yeah. All right. Platform 9 3/4. All right. Here is our roundup. I'll put the links to the article where I stole this from. That's probably much more up to date. So 44 are in. This is all the things that are going on around.
These
the world.
are all the people racing to be vaccine king.
It seems like some have already won, but
have we missed the boat by not throwing our own hat in this?
We probably should have developed.
We had a year. We could have been sitting here.
I've got one beaker.
We got a whole bunch of sciencey shit over there.
Don't know
How
what it
hard
does.
can it be?
I feel like you'd get a Bunsen burner and you'd put it on safety flame, which may or may not be blue or red. I can't remember.
Let's order some litmus paper.
Let's put it somewhere. It's just like, did you ever have that ad growing
Flask.
up where it's like a bit of this and a bit of that, and you're like, wow, and it's like kids wearing like a science costume, and like
I wanted
you're
to be
doing
one of
some
those science kids so bad.
Did you? What do you mean?
I wanted to be a scientist when I was a child. And then I very quickly realised that I was actually much more into science fiction than actual science, which basically functions like glorified maths most of the time.
Although when you get like next level scientists, you do end up being like science fiction stuff.
True.
But
that was not in the cards. But yeah, you want to get to the fun stuff, you've got to be so good at regular science first. And I was shithouse. It was all accurate record keeping and not talking out of my ass. And so it was completely the antithesis
and therefore you went into
of where my skills sit.
Where you can just say stuff.
Threw my life away.
Yeah. I was in the Double Helix Club and I was really good at science, so
cool.
Kind of a big deal.
Well, where's your fucking vaccine, mate?
It's not been
you didn't even make one.
No, I didn't make one.
Just
but here's the roundup of what other
instead.
people are doing.
Right.
44 are in phase 1, which means they are testing safety and dosages.
On humans?
I don't know. I'll put the answer above.
We're going to have some COVID-safe monkeys.
19 are in phase 2 with expanded safety trial. So I assume testing. You know, not all of them are even.
I want the ones that we're at stage 5, unsafe trials. We're just injecting homeless people.
Into pregnant women.
Yeah, just put them right into babies and then just off you go, see what happens.
20 are in phase 3, which is a large-scale efficacy tests, which is a fun word to say. 7 are in early or limited use, and 3 are approved for full use. So
that's the ones that we're seeing pictures of politicians getting jabbed with.
Yes, and you're hearing like the news about. So the one that you mentioned earlier is the Pfizer BioNTech. And it's like, who's the BioNTech? You're kind of being dropped from that. Like, do you think they fought over whose name would go first in the naming convention?
I don't know, I think they're just trying to like, what's the least comforting name possible?
Yeah,
BioNTech.
Are they like, as in the evil Pfizer? Yes. But
I don't think they consider themselves the evil Pfizer. They're just like
evil corp.
Wow, I never thought I'd end up here working for evil Pfizer. We just call it Pfizer here.
Oh. So Pfizer, BioNTech, and the Moderna are both mRNA, which we'll get to. Those vaccines are approved in Canada and are being approved for emergency use in the US, which is why we're hearing so much about them. The Oxford-astrazeneca, which you probably also heard a fair bit about. Mm-hmm. That's the one that's being approved for emergency use in Britain, India, and Argentina. Shout out Argentina, not India. And then there's another one called, this will not be correct, Gamaleya.
Well, you got that. Gamaleya,
which has got early use in Russia and emergency use in Belarus, and again, Argentina. So Argentina, again, shout out. Now, those are the ones that are going on, and we're going to discuss like the different types of technology or like virus.
And there was one they were working on here as well.
I think it got thrown out. I don't know that story. Do you know that story?
As part of getting it to work properly, they needed to use like a tiny chunk of the HIV virus, not in the way that made it remotely capable of transmitting HIV. Yeah. But as a consequence, then when doing the tests to see whether the vaccine had been effective, they were getting false positives for HIV. So the test was picking up, just recognizing the presence of that.
And I remember
quality and going ding, and then they're like, well, let's do like a proper HIV test. And it's like, no, absolutely not. The person doesn't have HIV. But it was a complication, and I think they decided because the other ones were starting to come together overseas, they're like, oh, let's pull the plug.
I do remember that and we'll put the name of the person here, but whoever was in charge of making the decision, or at least the press release, pointed out that they were so concerned about the perception of a successful and safe vaccine that they didn't want any kind of negative press around anything that would
It's so easy to undermine it, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm not getting the goddamn vaccine that gives me AIDS. Yeah, exactly.
Which I think they knew, and almost by I guess they couldn't have buried it, because then it would have been like all the conspiracy people would have been like buried.
Yes, chunks of AIDS in my vaccine.
But can you imagine the person who realized it was giving the false positives? Like, oh, not AIDS, fuck's sake.
This
is bad news. Gives you false positives. And the other thing that's going on in Australia, I think akin to that, is that our sort of health ministry and stuff are kind of like, look, it's not an emergency, we're not going to rush it, we're not crazy like the US or...
because we haven't shat the beds in terms of containment.
Yeah, so they're kind of like, let's just like take it easy, take it slow. Which again, I feel like in most circumstances, sure. But I think the misunderstanding is here, like, and they keep throwing out like the normal timeline for a vaccine and blah, blah, blah. But never has vaccines had this much like research, this much funding and stuff like that to like get to a point where it's good to go.
Pressure, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, we're only not an emergency here, almost fucking like, yes, we did, go through a crazy lockdown, but it's like, it's so easily, as proven kind of in 2021 basically, that it could so easily explode again. Like, maybe we should consider it an emergency.
That's how it exploded last time. Like, nationwide, we had a bit of a lockdown, and by mid-year it's like, oh no, it's okay, and then Victoria totally wasn't.
If they knocked on the door and they're like door knocking, they come house to house giving the jab, would you take it?
I don't think I'd take it from somebody who turns up on my doorstep.
All right, but okay, if you go to a place and
like, I wouldn't. If I'm not going to change my power provider based on some cunt coming to my doorstep, I'm not going to do it for a vaccine.
If it's all
but
fine,
I would get one from my GP.
Okay,
yes.
You would go and get it, and you'd just be like, yep, and it's fine.
Well, what we have here, because cases aren't quite so rampant, and if we all behave ourselves, we can keep the exposure in check.
We won't.
Then, we have the luxury of sitting back and waiting to see whether 4 months on the vaccine makes Americans turn inside out.
Well, I think that's their point. I think they're like, oh,
let them try it. Yeah. They've injected Rupert Murdoch. Let's sit back and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
And, hopefully kills him. But if it does...
What we're going to do is we're going to look at some butchered science to try and explain why it's not dangerous.
I feel we're qualified to analyse this science.
Well, I've done a real summary.
Let's bring our art shithead brains to bear on this.
The two main types of vaccine. The main one that is interesting and a bit exciting, because this is something that they've been working on for a long time, but because of COVID, they were able to sort of like, sounds like from what I've read, that they were able to like super step all of the research, and now we've got this thing called mRNA, which is definitely like, I remember learning about DNA and how RNA is like the actual good, interesting thing that we thought Jurassic Park was on about. Anyway, mRNA vaccines essentially teach our cells how to make a protein, that triggers the immune response. So it's supposed to be very safe since you aren't injecting a full bit of the virus. The Moderna and the Pfizer BioNTech are both mRNA. So what I understand is like everything's got like genetic sequencing and code and blah blah blah, and you can like just take a little bit of the protein spike from inside of remember the spikes from early on, which is why it's the corona, because it's the spiky like a crown. They take a tiny little bit of that, they inject it into you, and that teaches your cells how to make a protein, which then triggers the immune response. So you're never really injecting like, and we'll get into this because there's other types of protein vaccines, as a protein subunit vaccine, which is a harmless bit of the virus, and the vector vaccine, which puts in like a weakened version of the virus. And from what I can understand, those are sort of older styles where you're putting in essentially like a little bit of the live virus or a subunit of the virus, and that's what triggers the immune response and therefore produces antibodies.
It's like a safe easing in, yeah.
Yeah, whereas the mRNA is just like the map, so you're never really putting in the virus itself, you're just putting in...
It can't give you the virus, because it's not alive, active.
And it also can't give you AIDS or like, I don't know, autism. Not that that's bad, but it can't. So it sounds like fairly safe technology. It's exciting because they think that maybe one day the same technology would be used to give us sort of like a one-shot vaccine that can sort of trigger an immune response for like a bunch of stuff, which is really fucking cool.
Teaching
and like,
your body to defend
don't you just
itself.
feel excited to be alive in a time where you get to like, humans have figured this shit out? Like someone figured that out. Someone's just like, you know what we could do? Like, again, it's the Pfizer, BioNTech, and the Moderna one that are both in that vein. And then the other kinds, protein subunit and vector vaccines. Probably shouldn't be afraid of any of them. It's probably fine. It's probably definitely fine. And also, you can die from having an ibuprofen, so maybe you should stop having those.
Oh, yeah, those arguments are the same ones for not getting vaccinated, though.
What?
Like the coronavirus could kill me, but I could die from having an ibuprofen. I could walk in front of a bus. I could smoke 1,000 cigarettes and get cancer.
I had a very bad episode of anxiety because of this thing. I think it's called Stevens-Sundgen syndrome or something, but basically your skin melts off, and you can get it from having an ibuprofen. And I was like, it's definitely happening. Like, I was just like, I can see it happening. It wasn't happening.
Oh, I do remember this.
Yeah, so, you know. But anyway, I still have ibuprofen and I'm fine. I'm just fucking crazy. So, obviously, vaccines coming along. I think a lot of people are like, it's all fine now. Like, in my head, I'm like, oh, we're definitely traveling this year. It's like totally fine. Like, we're just gonna roll it out. The complication obviously is that it takes more than one shot to be effective, and I think some of them are up to 95% effective if you've had 2 jabs, but it's kind of like not that effective if you've only had the 1, and so there's a whole like schedule thing.
But who's taking their 2 jabs and then going up to a confirmed COVID case and being like, let's make out, blah, 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 blah.
So from what I understand,
that's the iron test,
because it's happening in a live population, and there are like, again, UK is like something like 60,000 cases a day, so it is being tested in the real world in terms of efficacy. And the larger scale tests that they did earlier in the year were also relatively within live populations, because they're giving them to people who are going back to hotspot areas.
But maybe those people haven't been exposed.
No, but they know that they have, right? Like that's how, they're not, like, because they're in populations where there are hotspots and things like that. So I think... Like,
actually, you get your second jab and then like, just go play with those kids over there. Oh, really? But they're all like, on the building blocks.
Yeah.
You're like, all right. It's cool.
Sus. Yeah,
we went into watching you with like clipboards waiting for you to get sniffly.
Well, I think that's interesting, like the ethics too, like this time I don't think they've even necessarily tested on animals for all of them. Like, we'll look up which one would be considered vegan, but I do think even if you're a vegan, it's probably your civic duty to have the fucking vaccine anyway, because hierarchy? Don't know.
Do you think vaccines are a civic duty?
I think so, yeah. Do you not?
but you don't believe that you should put the trolley back when you're done with it. That to me, that's a contradiction.
Capitalism. Really? No, I don't think so. I think the trolley is like it's just someone's job to put that back, and they need to be employed. So if I leave it somewhere, also it's more about
that someone's job argument is the same people who just take a shit in the food court and they're like, I'm providing employment for the cleaners. It's like, no, you're being a cunt.
I put the trolley back
they'll have to clean up
most of the
anyway.
time, just not if I think I'm going to get like, I don't know,
put the trolley back, take your vaccine, I guess is the message there.
Okay, fair. All right. Vaccines often, you may have heard this, have conspiracy theories around them.
No.
A CNN report from just the Saturday gone talks about a protest outside London Stratford train station comprised of, and here is a bit of a judgmenty sentence, bindi-wearing hippies, conspiracy theorists in balaclavas, and middle-aged men wearing waterproof jackets. A protester, yeah, can you imagine? I'm seeing it.
Coronavirus has made some interesting bedfellows.
Combos, yeah.
Hasn't it? Yeah, we're all united in our hatred of the government. And then you're like, what? But you can see they're all on the same page. It's like our episode covering the lockdown protests.
Yeah.
We're all like, yeah, government shouldn't tell us to lock down. And then some guy's going, also, chemtrails made my dick not work. And they're like, oh, maybe we're not with him. And then someone else has gone, it's Satan himself. Literally, actual Beelzebub made this virus. And people are like, oh, don't know about that. So it's amazing to watch them fracture as they all...
My freedoms. It's the
They all have their own unique flavour of dumb cunt. And it doesn't always necessarily work in the same stew, so it becomes very factionalised within there.
I think that was very similar in the 99% or the 1%, whatever that movement was. Remember that? Occupy Wall Street, basically.
A plucky bunch of 1%ers trying to fix the economy.
It's like everyone's fighting over the monocle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that had the same sort of infighting, which again, name me a movement in history that was a sort of hive mind where everybody's thinking the same. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, people are diverse, and there's always one guy, like, who's a bit,
Yeah, look, all these things have people on the fringe and stuff like that. Like, there's your BLM protesters who are trying to do it peacefully, and then there's a handful who are like, I'm going to burn down the bank.
Please don't.
Stuff like that. Yeah. These things become fractured. But I think because, unlike some other movements, this one's based almost entirely on panicked conspiracy bullshit, it probably makes itself even more prone to that sort of fractioning as people, I believe in this particular flavour of mad bullshit. And he's like, well, I believe in that too, but also there are lizard men. And so you sort of find they're compatible when they're all on the same page, just saying fuck Daniel Andrews. But as soon as they get into the more specific areas of their belief, it starts to come apart.
Didn't we talk about this once before, where it's like, if you find that you're in a movement where they're like, there are lizard people, should you not think twice about the movement?
Some people like to cherry pick. They're like, look, no, look, hey, personally, don't agree with the lizard people, but he makes some very, very clever remarks about fiat currency. So I'm like, I love this group, struggle a bit with the rampant anti-Semitism, but other than that, they make some excellent points about the New World Order. So yeah, it's sort of inevitable.
It does seem like it comes from a similar place to when you've got a problematic fave. Like, you like their art, whatever art, TV, script, whatever. But
say you really enjoyed the first 5 seasons of House of Cards and you found it to be a thrilling adventure, and then you watch season 6 and you're like, something's missing.
What? Yeah.
And
then you go in the comments and you're like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
An absolute nightmare. So I suppose, look.
Imagine being a moderate in a conspiracy group. You're just like, oh, look, I just want more accountability for authority. And everyone else is like, oh, the CCP tanks are going to be rolling down Swanson Street.
Those people go, though, they go into politics to actually make a difference instead of just like hovering on.
They said, like, I've got some fringe beliefs, but I don't come across as completely insane. So I can market this.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, so back to the middle-aged men in waterproof jackets at the protest outside London Stratford train station. A protester with the grassroots anti-lockdown group Stand Up X yelled into a megaphone, the vaccine is there to make you infertile. The vaccine is just going to make them able to control you. Okay? So that's what they, how does that make you feel as someone who's already controlled by the man because you pay taxes?
Exactly, because we live in a society. That's the deal.
We live in a society!
Yeah, it's a Joker text macro.
Picture of me accidentally dressed like the Joker.
They're in control, you fuckhead.
I think that's who was thinking before that you weren't control as you drive around with your, like, what?
On their roads, breathing their air, using their electricity.
I think maybe, isn't that thing where people thought they had freedom?
I don't know. There's little bits of it here and there. There's less freedom to be had.
It's like when you acknowledge that you don't have free will, it's fine,
had.
because you can still laugh and it's fine. Just
yeah, motherfucker, you don't even have free will of yourself. The government. I love him blaming it for his dick not working though.
Yeah.
That's a real nice touch.
You know when you go home to your wife, you're like, vaccine?
God damn, 5G killed my heart off. We were totally gonna have sex. Woman who definitely exists, but now I can't because the goddamn government stole my dick.
It's like rude that they would do that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think another conspiracy that I think you looked into this one, was this guitar pedal.
Oh, I did some hard research. It was one of the things was like, oh look, we've unlocked it. This is the secret schematic for the chip that gets injected inside you when they give you the vaccine. Level. And they looked at the schematic and someone had just relabeled. It's like the breakdown for a wah-wah pedal on a guitar and stuff.
Like a whammy bar?
It's that beautiful space where if you just include just enough technicality that it sounds like something, people will believe it's the thing it is. It's like when someone says, would you put, and then they'll name a chemical in your body, and you go, and then they go, no way, man, and they're like, yeah, well, that chemical's the name for water. But it's always like that. My favorite equivalent of that is when people share the text saying, I do not give Facebook permission to use any of my images, and they quote the Rome Statute in that. The Rome Statute is something that's placed into, it's like a Geneva Convention thing that basically means there's no statute of limitation on war crimes. So it's to do with like murdering hostages and torture. And they put this thing on their Facebook. And every time I see it, I'm like, you fucking moron. How many times does this have to be debunked? But because it's a chunk of mismatched copy-paste legalese, it sounds close enough to a real thing that these people who are habitually skeptical of everything else are like, this is it. This is the chip they're putting in my body. They're putting a tiny little chip that's the schematic of a wah-wah pedal inside your body.
Do we know who leaked that? Like somebody amazing troll or something. Like how did that even happen? I
don't even know. It's like with the Facebook one. Is someone at the heart of that a troll or a moron? Is someone going, all the dumb boomers on Facebook will share this stupid fucking thing.
To be like, leak it into those things and then they share it around.
And every time you see a copy paste, they're just putting it in here to be sure. And afterwards you go, none of that's true. None of that has any effect on what anyone can do on your Facebook. But they reject you coming at them with that. You're like, look, this is what the Rome Statute is. This is how this thing's bullshit.
Do they reject you?
Do you see it's now a chance for you to learn that that's fucking moronic? And they're like, yeah, well, just to be sure.
No, not just to be sure. So do you feel that it's is it your civic duty to be like, hey, that's not real?
I think it's my civic duty to throw these people off buildings into traffic.
That's
like
not
you are so
that's
fucking
not
you
a civic
out of the gene pool.
Citizen.
You're too stupid.
No.
You're not allowed.
No,
You're too stupid
eugenics.
for Facebook.
That's
You shouldn't get to decide about.
That's fashy. That's eugenics. We don't want to do that. Isn't it?
Well, even if it's eco-fashy, I heard eco-fashy was okay.
Eco-fashy is so hot right now? Because of the environment.
Nature's healing. Yeah, that sort of stuff. Look, there's goats in the main centre of Wales. We're safe now. Nature's healing. No, that's eco-fascism. Apparently that's not what we're meant to do. We're meant to blame the corporations. So, if you think that the vaccine has been secretly generated by an evil cabal of Hollywood elite to help turn you into mindless, mind-controlled drones, let us know in the comments below. Try not to be anti-Semitic, that would be nice, but I understand as mad conspiracy theorist that sort of sense of control and judgment may be beyond the grasp you have. Also, if you're planning on taking the vaccine because you want to be mind controlled by the Hollywood elite, also let us know in the comments below. I guess, wash your hands, wear masks.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe, tell your friends.
Stay hygienic and don't die.